Hello, hello, hello. So I decided that I was just going to start going live. I've been talking about doing a podcast like forever. And honestly, I don't want to have to figure all that stuff out. And so I thought I would just start going live here and then sharing the video that I do here. And I was just talking to my friend Charlotte, and I think there are a lot of us who have mothers that, like, I don't want to use the word like narcissistic mother, because I don't know about you, but like I feel like everybody's a narcissist now. And I don't think that that title is necessarily appropriate for everybody, but I definitely just feel like there are a bunch of us that, let's just say, grew up with moms who like weren't all warm and fuzzy. And the holidays for a lot of us are really a struggle. And even when you become a mom, like I have, and I've been a mom for 18 years now, almost 19, there's always like this melancholy feeling that I've always had. And I've never really understood it, never really like understood where it came from until I started to like do some healing of my inner child or whatever it is. And this conversation started because I've been working with my friend Charlotte for like over a year. And last year we started working together the same time, and we just started kind of like sharing stories about like our moms and how similar they were. And I just want you to know that there are a lot of us. There are a lot of us. And let me tell you something. We are awesome people. We are high achievers. We get stuff done. We just make it happen. We're actually excellent mothers, believe it or not, even though we've had some kind of goofy growing up stories. And I just think that we need to be like, I don't know if we need a signal. Like, hey, like whenever I wear like the Eagles hat, everybody's always like, go birds. Like I feel like we all have to have like this kind of like clue that like lets us know, like, yeah, I had the same kind of mom you did. Um, but and so I feel like a lot of the women that I have in my life, and a lot of people who are attracted to me, you don't know this, but we have this in common a lot of times, in that we just didn't have um the nice, sweet mother. And let me just preface by saying I love my mom. I have forgiven my mom. I have a cordial relationship with her. There have been periods of my life where we didn't talk. Like I like literally, I think it went like a whole year without speaking to her. I really don't spend holidays with my mom. Believe it or not, I still spend holidays with my ex-husband's parents because they really were like family to me. Um, and so it just, I really never put together like why I was so melancholy. Like I don't love the holidays. And even though I had kids, and even though I would do all the things like the elf and this and that, and I just really just didn't love it. And I realized that part of the reason why I didn't love it was because it was so chaotic, having a parent like that. And let me tell you something. I'm 52 years old, and something like literally just happened. So this Thanksgiving, we went to my ex-husband's family's house. They have a farm, and the whole family gets together. And I was like shopping the Wednesday before, and my mom like starts texting me, and she starts texting me this crazy shit. Like she starts bringing up like how, the best times of her life was when my kids were little, and now they're big and they don't pay attention to her. And then she started bringing up like this fight that we had, where like I told her I hated her, and all this other stuff. And so now, being 52 years old and healing myself, that stuff doesn't even like affect me anymore. Like it used to really affect my day. It used to upset me. And now I just see her as the wounded person she is. And I just don't give into it. Like I just don't answer her. And I think I actually didn't even wish her a happy Thanksgiving, which probably wasn't nice. But I just was like, no, no. And I think that that's what I've learned is that like when you start to have boundaries and you start to not let people treat you the way they want to treat you, even though they're your parent, you start to build confidence in yourself and you start to like stick up for like that inner child in you. And so anyway, so Charlie and I were talking about like she had an incident at Thanksgiving. And if you're watching this, like, and you don't mind publicly sharing, like share in the comments what yours was because I bet you something happened. And you know, when I look at like my whole life, it's not just the holidays. It's like it was like any time that it was a big event for me, my mom for some reason would like make it about her or bring out like some sort of, I don't know what it was, like a like an example. My mom, like I was pregnant with Landy and she like told me when my shower was because it was a surprise, and she told me she wasn't coming. And I don't even know what the fight was. Like, I was such a good daughter. I was like, I never gave my parents an ounce of problems. I really, like, honestly, part of the reason why I am like, um, I take everything on myself is because, like, that's what I had to do in my life is like, I never, like, my college son calls me like at the drop of a hat, you know, if he needs something or he wants to talk about something or he has an issue. And I love that. But I'm like, holy crap. Like I would have never at that age went to my parents about a problem because they just weren't problem solvers for me. And I'm not even saying my 18-year-old wants me to problem solve. Like he's actually a great kid and he solves his own problems, but it's almost like, you know, that's really what your parents are. They're there as a sounding board for you and stuff. And I just didn't have that. And so when I had my son, yeah, so when I was pregnant with Lanny, she got mad at me. And I don't even know, like, I think that's the greatest thing is that you start to realize why you are the way you are is because that's the way you were made to be. And so, you know, I was always like hyper reactive. And part of the reason why I'm so hyper reactive is because I lived in a family where I didn't know what was going to piss my mother off and have her flip out. um you know, like it literally could be that she was just having a bad day and just took it out on me and stuff. And like she told me when my shower was, she told me she wasn't coming. And so like for a whole week before my shower of my first son, and like supposed to be this wonderful time, I didn't even know if she was going to be there or not. And this, you know, the heaviness that carries. And then, you know, there's so many events like I can tell you. And I don't want this talk to be like, oh, my mom's so awful kind of thing. I guess what I want you to know is you're not alone. And there's a lot of us who have these stories and we just don't put it out there. And we don't talk about it. And we tend to walk around with this heaviness and this sadness. And I got to tell you, it's really been a blessing to be 52 years old and not carry that sadness anymore. Because I really, I think most of my life I didn't even realize I carried that sadness. And now to just be like, it's almost like you're like on the outside looking in. You're like, oh, okay, like this is what she's doing, whatever. And so like I actually like Googled like why is it that narcissistic mothers um do these things. And so like I had my list here and it said that they have difficult with empathy. So um that is an issue. They have a problem with idolization. Yeah. So they see their family as like being this awesome thing. And like, I know for my mom, she does not take into consideration the kind of mother she was. And so she feels like she should be like on that pedestal and stuff. And so I think in the holidays, it's like very clear that she's not on that pedestal with me, especially because I do not spend the holidays with her. And so I think that causes an issue, because all of a sudden they're like, everything is not the way it is. They obviously can't cope with stress very well. And my mom is going through a stressful time. Her fiance is going through battling cancer. So I have empathy for my mother, but I do not allow my mother to treat me the way she has always treated me. And so, like, even when that came up on Thanksgiving, I was like, no. And then they like to manipulate with like sympathy and sadness and stuff like that. And they need attention and jealousy. Like, my mom was always like the type of person, like, I married someone who was well off. My ex-husband had a lot of money. And so, like, when she would see me doing things with the kids, like, she would tell me, she'd be like, "Oh, I didn't have enough money to not work, or I didn't have enough money to like do this or do that." And it was just like so odd all the time. And then so like that jealousy was like always there. Like, when we went to Hawaii like 5 different times, and it would be like, "Oh, I've never been to Hawaii." And here's the thing, guys, there's so much that I've realized that I used to do to my friends that I didn't even know it was dysfunctional, if that's a word. So, like, when somebody tells you something and you're just supposed to like hold space for them and listen. Well, I didn't know that. And so when somebody would tell me a story, I always felt like I had to tell them a story about me. Like, so like if somebody was telling me like, oh, their grandmother is sick, whatever, I'd be like, "Oh yeah, my grandma like broke her hip or whatever." And it's like, no, you're not supposed to do that. But I didn't know that, because that's what that was modeled for. And so, like, you know, part of the reason I think I have better friendships now as I got older is because I realized that I was emulating a lot of not healthy behavior that I had just simply picked up and learned and just thought it was normal and stuff. And so, but there has just been so many, we could do a whole call on everything that I have been through or whatever. And now at 52 years old, I think one of the weirdest things, and I don't know if you guys know this, but like, you're a mom, right? And like, I don't know anybody who had like a bad relationship with their mother who isn't a kick-ass mother. Like, I don't know. Like, I think that we really like nail the mothering thing, even though we weren't mothered very well, which is like really crazy. But like, don't you ever think to yourself, like, I would never do that to my child? I would never do that to my child. And let me tell you something, you have to heal, because if you don't heal, you will do things to your kids that you didn't think you like. When my kids were little, like, I was get very angry easily. I would hit them. I would like flip out, stuff like that. And like, I had to like learn and stop that, because I was like, holy, like, I'm becoming my mom in that respect. And I didn't like that about myself. And, thankfully I loved my children enough to like want to work on that in myself. But yeah, so I kind of just wanted to come on here and talk about the holidays and how like sometimes it's just not happy for a lot of us. And I think that the first step in like getting through holidays where maybe you feel that melancholy thing is just to allow yourself to feel it and like not think that you're crazy and not think that it's not normal. And I don't think you need to overtly like go overboard with the holiday stuff because you don't do that, because I think I've done that too in the past. Um, and I think it's totally okay not to be so crazy about the holidays. Like, I don't know, for me, like I love loving on people and doing things for people like all year round. I don't really look at um the holidays as like this only time. And then I feel like what's weird about the holidays is I feel like sometimes people don't allow themselves to be happy in other areas of their life. And so they're like, okay, like this is going to make me happy. And I'm going to put my tree up and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. And maybe it does. But like, I just want people to know that there's 365 days of the year and they can do other things too. But I did start this and go all over the place. This is why I would not be good at a podcast because I can't stay on track. But yeah, but so I just kind of wanted to talk about the fact that when you're dealing with a mom like I had, who I love, um, the holidays can be a little more difficult. And, you know, part of the thing that was good for me is like really not spending time with my mom on the holidays because it really did become an issue. Like, I remember like my son's first birthday, like my mom storming off in the middle of his birthday because I would love to tell you like that I knew why she did these things, but most of the time I didn't. And I don't even think she did. I just think she couldn't control herself. And um at least now she apologizes for her behavior. Like, and that's new because she never used to apologize before, which I think is terrible because I always apologize to my kids because I know I am not perfect and I know I have lost my shit. I know I've handled things wrong. I know, especially right after I got divorced, I was very angry, and I didn't handle things well. And I apologize to my kids for that. And I think it's good that, you know, like they know you're human and stuff. But it just is interesting. And I think some of the best things for you to do is to, like, one of the things that I liked was I created my own little family, and my own little family has our own little traditions and things like that. And so it kind of like I was just telling Charlotte, like one of our best Thanksgivings was just the four of us. And I thought it was going to be like awful because I was like, oh, we're not going to be with a lot of family. Da, da, da. And I'm like, and it actually wound up being like freaking fun day. Like, stayed in our pajamas, watched the Macy's parade, um, you know, got everything cooked for us. So, you know, brought it to the house, and it was just like a fun time. And I think that that's some of the best things that you can do is like create your own um things that go on in your house. Like, you get to determine like what the holidays are and things like that. And I think, you know, this is why I always say one of the greatest things that you're going to learn about yourself is to have grace. Because, girl, we have been through a lot. And grace is something we never afforded ourselves. And a lot of us tend to look at grace as being weak and weakness, and acknowledging that we need grace, right? Because when you're a high performer, you're like, no, I don't need grace. Like, I should have done that. I should have did that. And my life has completely transformed because I actually became a lot nicer to myself and having grace and things like that. And so I think having grace is acknowledging that maybe you didn't have the perfect childhood and maybe you do struggle with relationships, and also having boundaries, not letting people treat you like that, and having a smaller group of time with those people who maybe don't treat you well. I mean, I remember, I think it was like 8 years ago this time, I was actually undergoing radiation for breast cancer treatment. And it was my last day of radiation treatment. And my mom called me, and I was meeting my girlfriend because my girlfriend's like, I'm taking you out to lunch and we're going to celebrate and and all this other stuff. And my mom called me, and I was waiting for the car to come around. And I'm like, my mom's calling me because it's the last day of radiation. And she called me because she wanted to know what I was buying her for Christmas. And I was just like sometimes I feel like it's like kind of like being like Lucy with the football, like Charlie Brown. Like Charlie Brown's like kicking the ball, and like she like takes the ball, and Charlie Brown like every time is like, what? Like I feel like sometimes I still get like that with my mom. And so like at that moment I was like, what? I was like, I just finished cancer therapy and you're asking me what I'm buying you for Christmas. So I have all these stories. And the reason I'm telling you these stories is because, number one, I want you to know that you probably, if you're watching this, you have these stories too. Number two, I also want you to know that you're normal. It doesn't mean you're a bad person. I think it's like really weird to be a female and to have a story where you're like, yeah, like I know my mom loves me, but like, was she able to love me? Probably not. And that's a really weird, vulnerable kind of thing to say because, because then you internalize it, because then you're like, well, what kind of person am I if my own mother didn't really love me and didn't treat me well, And so that's why, I think therapy and, I've read so many books on healing my inner child and all those things. And it was helpful. But the coolest thing I think I've learned just in general is that you get to be the person who you needed. And it doesn't mean that you're any less because you had to be that person and you didn't have those people in your life. And it can be just as fulfilling that when you actually do that. And so I think when people look at me now and they're like, wow, you seem so different, and you seem so happy, and you see some whatever, like I just want you to know that did not come from an achievement. It didn't come from a love affair. It didn't come from anything else other than me actually standing up for myself and having grace for myself and really becoming the person that I probably needed to be or needed to have in my life. And you get to be that way. So hopefully this wasn't all over the place. But I'm going to keep doing this. I'm going to keep going live, and I'm going to save the videos. And I would love for you guys to be a part of the conversation in leaving comments. And I would love if you subscribed, because subscribed allows you to know when I go live, because we all know that it's never going to be it's never going to be the same time all the time. And so at least if you get that notification, you could be like, oh, okay, I'm going to watch this. And a lot of you guys always tell me that you like watching my videos and on my stories, but my stories don't really have any permanence because they're gone in 24 hours. And you know me, like I'm the person on IG, I have all the dots. And so I'm trying to work better and smarter and actually give you guys the, the value that you want. And so I would love to hear your conversations on this. Bye, guys.